They first started racing here in the early 50s, and it didn't take long for Sebring to become an American and international racing institution. The spring weather signals the start of the new racing season, and for the American Le Mans Series, it begins with the toughest test. This is the 56th Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida. And we welcome you to the Acura pre-race show. Yes, the countdown to green is on. We are close, just over half an hour until we go racing. We always expect huge crowds here at Sebring. It's like ants to a picnic blanket. The lure of this event is just too strong. Many ticket off their lifetime to do, while tens of thousands continue to come back each and every year. Just breathtaking sights on a beautiful spring morning high above Sebring International Raceway. And we give you a treat today, an extra special treat. We are here amongst the fans on the grid. Hello everyone, Lee Diffie, and welcome to Speed's live and exclusive coverage of this classic American sports car event. And there's an extra special reason why it's significant today, because we're celebrating the beginning of the 10th anniversary season of the American Le Mans Series. Now, last year in June at Le Mans, we were treated to a great fight between Audi and Peugeot. We are very pleased to bring that rematch, and for the first time, Peugeot brings their diesel prototype here. But there's another big player in, and that player is Porsche, and they pushed Audi all the way in season 2007. They were strong not only in their LMP2 category, but for overall honours as well. To tell you how strong, they won 11 of the 12 events in their P2 category. However, they won overall an incredible 8 times, and they did it consecutively. It was high passion, it was high drama, high performance from the Porsche RS Spiders of the Penske organization. However, there is one big one that has eluded them, and it's this one.
Sebring was the only race. It's the only race that we didn't win yet. So we of course are going in there with a goal, and the goal is to win that race. This race of the whole season, and it's at the beginning of the season. Once you survived Sebring, you are sure that you are prepared for the whole year. And done everything, really everything to to be successful this year.
They will push Audi all the way, Brian Till, and Dindo Capello and Audi know that, don't they?
Lee, you can feel the pressure down here on the grid. That is Sebring. It's already beginning to heat up. I mean, temperature-wise and pressure-wise as well. 9 times in a row Audi has been on the pole, and they're looking for their 9th win in a row. Dindo Capello, a lot of pressure this year, though, from the Peugeot camp. We've seen the speed, and we've seen reliability throughout practice. How much pressure do you guys feel, Al Nish here beside you, how much pressure do you guys feel to take this 9th victory?
Yeah, there is always pressure on starting the Sebring 12 hour, because it's the most for us important race of the season, because it's a preparation of Le Mans, and we really feel the pressure. Now with the Peugeot fast, we feel the pressure even more, but we do not have to forget that the LMP2 car has a chance for an overall victory. Therefore, I think there are at least 6, 7, 8 cars are able to fight for an overall victory, and I think we will be under pressure till the very last minutes of the race.
Well, every one of these drivers in this #1 Audi won here before, but you heard Capello say we've got a lot of pressure now, and some of that pressure sits right next to him on the grid. Chris?
Well, Brian, Audi track since 2000, but the Lion has crossed the ocean, and we are about ready to witness one of the greatest battles, a rematch from last year's Le Mans, where the Peugeot finished second. Nick, Audi leads this score 1-0. Are you guys ready to even it up?
Of course we are. We've been working really hard since we come here. The car is running really well. I think we prove we're fast, and we're going to give them a good fight. That's what I want.
You can't believe the determination, the direction, the intensity within that Peugeot campaign, Dorsey Schrader. You've driven for Audi, and you've driven for Audi here at Sebring. Do you kind of get the feeling that they feel the pressure?
Yeah, they feel the pressure, all right, and it became quite actually in the very last practice session as the Audi guys were trying to stay hard. It was he had a little simple spin, no big problem down into turn 3. Things get a little bit more intense. Lucas Luhr almost crashes the car badly. This is turn 17, very, very fast corner. Great save here. That could have been a big one. Now, this is Tom Christensen. He does get up the racetrack, makes heavy contact with the barrier. It's not just Audi Lee that's struggling with changing conditions here at Sebring. In fact, it seems to have everyone scratching their
everyone doing a little bit of a cleanup. Why are they feeling that pressure? I mean, is it a simple case of Peugeot really turning up the heat?
Well, I think in the past, Audi has been able to set the speed that they wanted to run at. Now, Peugeot has shown in several practice sessions that they are the faster car. This puts added pressure on, and then you do have Porsche back there that wants to win as well. Don't let our Acura, don't count anyone out here.
Well, of course, we went through that Bentley era. It kind of feels like this is the best fight that Audi has had in some time.
No question about it. It's the most pressure they'll feel into Le Mans. This is a great test for Le Mans. This is a tougher racetrack than Le Mans.
We'll talk lots about Audi. We'll talk lots about Peugeot. We'll also talk lots, Brian Till, about Porsche.
We will indeed, Lee. Don't forget, Roger Penske has won here as a crew chief, as a driver, and 4 times as a team owner. But, Roger, what you guys have not yet is win with this Porsche RS Spyder. We talked a couple of years ago. You said it's about P2 victories, and then you won 8 times overall last year. Is it about P2 or is it about overall here?
Well, I think it's about momentum, about reliability. We've not had here before, but the momentum we bring in from 2007 I think is positive, but all these teams have stepped it up with the competition. So, you know, we're excited about today. They're going to be tough. This Peugeot is going to add a little bit of excitement for the Audis, so we'll see what happens.
You say he'll see what happens, guys. You know they're going 3. He said a couple of years ago it's about P2. You know they want it overall, and they may have a shot at it.
Now hold on a second, Brian. Porsche was great last year, but it was Andretti Green that won this race in their debut. They came out of the gates. Porsche didn't get it. Acura did. However, you did have to sit back, watch Porsche go on then to dominate not only LMP2, but overall. This team has had a chance to look at a whole season of racing. Can you win this race overall?
I think there's an outside shot. You know, I think the first goal is to beat the Porsches, obviously, for the P2. But if we can, we're going to be pushing as hard as we can to get a win, which we did last year. We were very close to doing it. So
all of these Acuras have showed amazing speed all week long in practice. Now the big question is, can this light, nimble car take 12 hours of Sebring?
Really look forward to seeing if they can do it overall. Now, while it's been a positive week for Andretti Green Racing, it has not been for young English driver Ben Devlin and his BK Sports Mazda. Check out this footage. Turn 1 at over 130 miles an hour. Clips the inside wall at the apex. The car gets airborne, flies sideways, rolls into the tyre barrier and the catch fencing. Here is the slow-mo. You have to look carefully, but this was one hairy ride for Ben Devlin. The upshot, he is okay, but Jamie Howe, the BK Motorsports team, worked overtime.
When you say overtime, Lee, that means 300 man-hours that went into getting the Mazda-powered Lola on track today. John Doonan, after all the time spent at the racetrack, is this team mentally prepared for the race?
Well, I'd be lying if I didn't say it was tough. I mean, it's been a long week, a number of all-nighters. Team, all of us. I think we put the final decals on at 3:45 this morning. But you know what? The support from the series, IMSA, all the teams up and down. We went through Tech yesterday. A crowd gathered and a number of teams there clapping when we got our sticker. So it's a special day that, you know, you see it all come together, but it's been a tough week.
And we congratulate the team and for Bob Bark and the entire BK Motorsports organisation who really pulled that together. They pulled some all-nighters, but they will start the 56th Mobil 1, 12 hours of Sebring. The grid is being cleared. We have some formalities to get before we go racing, but here at the race show, the countdown to green, we are not far away. Now, we've spoken a lot about the prototypes. Of course, they grabbed the headlines, but how about the #1 moment in the American Le Mans Series history, voted by the fans? It was the finish of the GT2 class last year. Ferrari and Porsche. Who will it be come the end? To hug the inside line.
He's got to set him up here. He's got to get a run off 16. It's all about this corner, Calvin. Look at this run. He's got a run.
Mello comes over to try and block him. Bergmeister, he's right up against the wall. How close do you like it? This is a drag race down towards turn.
Here comes the Ferrari.
The Ferrari comes back.
It's on the wrong side. It's outside.
Bergmeister has the preferred line. Mello's going to have to do the hard work, and he hasn't got enough. Has he switched on him? He gets the inside. Race. They touch again, and Mello will get it. The Ferrari wins GT2. Speed's coverage of the American hours of Sebring is brought to you by Acura, Acura Advance, and by XM Satellite Radio. Channels to find out what turns you on. XM, are you on? Just how big can the event get? Look at that. Just magical scenes high above Sebring International Raceway for the 56th Mobil 1. 12 hours of Sebring. We're with you for almost the entire day. Throughout this half-hour Acura pre-race show, we'll have 30 minutes after as well, bringing you a complete wrap-up of round 1 of the 2008 American Le Mans Series. It's time to go and speak with Greg Kramer, Calvin Fish. Boys, we've spoken a lot about the prototypes, but going to the saw just how spectacular the GT categories can be.
Well, and as a matter of fact, Lee, it may be getting even more spectacular in the GT2 category, because what we're seeing in that category very much in a way mirrors what we've experienced the last couple of years, that explosive growth in the prototype category. More and more manufacturers are recognizing the relevance of racing their production cars in the GT2 category. And for this season, Porsche and Ferrari are back, of course, as is Panos, but we have new entries from Chevrolet, Aston Martin, Chrysler, Ford, and even announced for 2009 and maybe later this year, BMW is coming back. But those programs, Calvin, are very much in their infancy. I think when it comes to the race today, it's the usual suspects, isn't it?
It really is, Greg. I expect a thrilling battle here today between Ferrari and Porsche. Last year, Ferrari had the dominant race car. They won 9 of the 12 races. Porsche snuck. But Porsche vowed to come back strong, and boy have they. They've built a brand new race car. It's very fast, and they've also added a very fast race team in Farm Marcalos. They have a great history with Porsche. They've won championships before, but Ferrari haven't stood still. They've worked on the 430, has improved aerodynamics. It has more power. They've also added a stellar race team as well. Tafel Racing, 2 cars, great driver lineup. The gloves will be off in a few minutes, mate. I'm very excited.
Well, and if it comes down to those 2 marks, as we saw last year, that can be a very good thing. Now, you talked about the driver lineup. Well, right now, one of our announcers down in pit lane is standing by, Chris Neville, with one of the drivers from that superb Lizards program.
Well, so close to winning this race last year, and that nail bite. And Mark, this year, the team shows up, 3 cars, an updated RSR. Is this what it's to get Porsche back in victory lane?
I mean, that's what we're all hoping for. We finished the last 2 years second. The first, in 06, we finished 5 seconds behind the leader. Last year, even closer, so we really hope we're going to win this race this year. I think the team puts a really strong effort in this year's season, and we have a strong team combination, like 3 cars really who can run in the top class, and I really hope we can finish on the top spot.
Well, Porsche looks strong this year, but we've seen more prancing horses on this grid. Jamie?
One of those prancing horses is the new one of Tafel Racing with Dirk Muller behind the wheel. Dirk, you know what it wins to win. You know what it takes to Sebring. You know what it takes to win with the Ferrari. Do you and Tafel Racing have that today?
Yeah, I think, Tafel Racing, driver, Michelin, Ferrari, we are really, really prepared for the 12 hours. We worked a lot during the winter to improve the car, as Porsche did. Seen in qualifying, it's really, really close. But I think we are quite confident for the 12 hours.
All right, there's a lot of competition in GT2, and for the first time in Sebring history, an Aston Martin will take the GT2 grid. One of their drivers is down with Andrew Marriott.
Yes, indeed, from the corridors of power, which are London's Houses of Parliament, to these mean concrete streets here. Sebring. Lord Paul Drayson, the British GT champion, has made a big life move. Paul, why are you here?
This is something I've wanted to do since I was... So it's absolutely fantastic to actually finally be here.
Well, that's great, and he's got a special logo on the side of his car which reflects the House of Lords.
Well, it's wonderful to have Lord Paul Drayson here, and he is very, very excited, the former UK Minister of Defence. And he is extremely excited about not only here, but perhaps the end goal of racing at Le Mans one time. And you may remember Tiff Needell from the BBC programme Top Gear. Tiff is here covering Lord Paul Drayson. It's quite exciting from the British Isles. We'll see how he performs today in his GT2 Aston Martin. The field is deep over the 4 classes, LMP 1 and 2, and of course GT1 and GT2. There is so much to talk about, and just touching on that Ferrari-Porsche battle one more time, if you talk to any of the Ferrari teams, they know that Porsche has really stepped it up here for this 2008 Mobil 1 12-hour Sebring. Dorsey, if I just bring you back, what's your take on the GT battle? GT1, we'll touch on that in just a moment because there's some exciting news there, but GT2, everyone's talking about Ferrari and Porsche.
Well, GT2 is simple. It's a war. It's always been a war between these 2 manufacturers, no question about it. The war's gotten deeper this year. There's more cars, there's more talent. And who's going to win? It might go down to the last lap like it did last year. Wouldn't that be great?
Well, as we saw in our Thursday night show up on the stage just at Pit Out when we had Seth Nyman up from Flying Lizards, he said, very nice gesture from Giuseppe Risi from Risi Competizione. That finish, just 0.2 of a second, the closest ever finish in the history of Sebring. So there's not bad blood between the teams, but that rivalry will still be there.
It's there, and there is a little bad blood between the team. Not the team so much, but Jorg is still quite hurt by that finish. He had it. He knew he had it, and it was taken from him, and that's not a good feeling.
All right, more from the grid.
Down here with Johnny O'Connell. Johnny, Corvette's going with the green. You're going for 18th win. How important is today for you?
Man, I wish it was my 18th win. Going for my 7th win, 18th start. Yeah, no, I'll tell you what, you know, Sebring is the most amazing race, sports car race we have in North America. It's a pleasure to be here representing Chevrolet with a Corvette, and you know, we've got a speedy race car, and you know, hopefully we're going to you know, get that 7th one today.
Well, most wouldn't jump in the ring with a prize, but Bell Motorsports is going to try and do something that no privateer team has done since 2001, beat Corvette. Terry, did you get to see the Super Bowl this year? Were you guys inspired by the New York Giants?
I was, and we were also inspired in 2001 because we were the privateer team that beat the Corvette team, and I know it's hard because they're really good, but we're going to give it a shot.
Well, just touching on the GT1 class, it's good to see that Corvette do have some competition in the Aston Martin. Terry Borchella and Jim Bell coming into that category. And let's talk about that for a moment. Jim Bell and Terry Borchella, the guys, they say quite not on the pace just yet of the Corvettes, but it's great to have a car in that class.
Well, it is, and this is the first effort for these guys. So I mean, they're going to learn from this, and you can't, you know, discount Sebring. Cars can break, you know, and that Aston might not break. It has a chance to win. Why not be here?
And to go back and speak about Corvette racing for just a moment, American Le Mans Series is a global leader in alternative fuels and greening motor racing. This event is a landmark event for them, and Corvette Racing is campaigning the new E85 fuel. There's a partnership between the American Le Mans Series and the Environmental Protection Authority, the Department of Energy, and SAE International. We'll be talking a lot more about these alternative fuels. It can only be good for motorsport.
Well, it has to happen. Everybody knows that it's coming. There's no reason not to get it started. Everyone's been talking about it. ALMS is the first series that is doing it.
There is also a Green Racing Challenge that we will talk more about throughout this broadcast and the entire 2008 American Le Mans Series, because that will happen at Petit Le Mans. More from when we...
I think the field in this year's Sebring race is the best it's ever been.
It doesn't matter what formula you're driving down here. You know, the heritage here, all the famous drivers have been here, and now this series is developing where, you know, you're seeing Reddies and the Ray Halls and Penske's talking about their, you know, their grandfather racing here or their fathers. It's just an awesome place.
I mean, if you look back on the history of sports car racing in the U.S., I mean, Sebring's been one of the biggest races. It's definitely a cool feeling that, you know, to have all that history underneath you like that.
And it's the first round. LMS season. It's the biggest sports car race, you know, you can have over here, and for us, especially for Audi, we use it as a test and preparation for Le Mans, the 24-hour race, because it's one of the toughest tracks here.
You know, the race itself is a monster.
Physically, it's very, very demanding on the body. The car takes a lot of abuse.
It's hard. It's hard on the driver. It's pretty physical because it's very bumpy. It's hard on the car also.
It's flat out for 12.
The atmosphere is like nothing else, and you get lifted the moment you walk in here.
Sebring, it's history, and for us to start this with Taffel Racing, so excited to be here, our second year in a row, here with a new manufacturer, the Ferrari, and I'm really excited.
Some people say that this is more of a challenge for the car and for the team than a 24-hour race at some other venues.
We could not ask for better weather on this morning for the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. And we are just about to hear a special rendition of the American National Anthem from renowned jazz trumpeter, a man who has played with the Dizzy Gillespie, Frank Sinatra, Alicia Keys and Tony Bennett. I'll tell you who it is in just a moment. Dorsey, Cal, very quickly, what's going to be the key to success
Well, it's the same thing as always, you know, at Sebring. It's getting there to the end. This is a tough racetrack, Al.
It is, and this week particularly, Dorsey, talking to the drivers, they said they've never experienced anything like it. The track is changing constantly. They've really been chasing the setup. We saw the Audi boys from that footage really being problems all week long. I spoke to Stefan Johansson yesterday, said, I just can't believe every time we go out we need a different setup on the car. So there's a little bit of a guessing game going on right now in terms of what setup you put on the car. The temperature's going to be up. That Peugeot has the closed cockpit. That will be a today, but a lot to look forward to.
It doesn't just have the drivers and the teams guessing. It's got the tire manufacturers guessing. I talked to the Michelin guys. They said, this is crazy. We're throwing tires out here, and it changes every hour to set up.
Now, that would be a unique view high above the straights and turns of Sebring. And it is warming up literally by the minute down here. This is going to be a long, hard day's work for the drivers in the American Le Mans Series. The regulars, visitors from all over the globe. It is time now for the national anthem to be performed by renowned jazz trumpeter Arturo Sandoval.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Arturo Sandoval, for that rendition of the national anthem as we gear up and count down the start of the Mobil 112 hours of Sebring. And here is one of the big names who will be performing over the next 12 hours with Chris Neville.
Well, now you would think Andretti Green would want to as little as possible after their win last year, but they come here with two new drivers of the crew. Christian, a lot of pressure for you and Marco. What are your thoughts?
Well, pressure in a way because it's our first race over, but at the same time, we've been running for a good amount of time. Me especially, I'm a lot older than he is, but Marco has a lot of experience. And yeah, there's a lot of pressure. Obviously, we all want to win, but the Porsches are pretty strong right now. It's going to be very competitive out there. We'll see. I don't want to say anything right now. It's 12 hours ahead of us, and it's going to be hard, but let's keep our fingers crossed.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Got along with me here. Pat, you're looking forward to this? Not a GT, a prototype.
Certainly looking forward to it. As you said, it's not a GT car, and the job becomes very different. It's now time to overtake instead of being overtaken, and that is a lot of responsibility on the driver's shoulders. This is a long race, so we've got to stay out of trouble and race those kind of final. So, and hopefully we're still on the lead lap, but the LMP1 cars are sure much stronger than they have been in the past based on rules and development. So we're going to fight the Acuras and then go for an overall.
Thanks very much, Pat.
New year for Marino Franchitti. Last year he was in the Acura, this year in the Porsche. Marino, what are your thoughts going into this race?
Well, it's typical Sebring. You just know what to expect. The track changes a whole race, but our car's been great all week, so Dyson Racing and Porsche are looking for a good result today.
Well, like his brother, he's going to be doing something new today.
And many feel that that was just reward for Marino's fine performance last year. He had many good races in the Andretti Green Acura. So we wish Marino well in his new campaign, and he has never completed a full season, full regular season of American Le Mans Series competition. So he's very excited about the year ahead.
He really is, but there's a great opportunity for him because last Yeah, there was a lot of turmoil at the end of the season, and I think Marino, Pat Long, Ben Devlin, some of these young superstars really have a chance to make their mark this year, Dorsey.
Yeah, there was a lot coming back who was going to what car, a lot of switching around and so forth. So, you know, the pressure now is on, but it's off. They're in behind the wheel, and that's when the driver's at his own.
Belong to Chris McMurray, part of the Autocon Motorsports creation team. They've had some challenges this week, but they are ready once again. Looking forward to, and he said, we bumped into Chris this morning. He said there's a nice group behind us, there's a nice group in front of us, so we are looking forward to pretty much running our own race. As we hear engines fire here in Sebring, it is time to take a closer look of the Yokohama track map.
Well, the lap here at Sebring starts with one of the most daunting corners in all of North America. Turn 1 at Indy, put a wall around the inside is blind and some big bumps through there. Hard to imagine that the P2 cars were flat out through there in qualifying. Then there's like a funnel effect down there into turn 3. The opening tire temps, tire pressures will not be up. The boys have to be very careful through this fast sweeper, and then another trouble spot down there towards the old hairpin. You got to be careful to get through there cleanly, up through the very chicane, and then it's this area. This is where Christensen got into trouble yesterday, Dawes.
Now, when you come out of turn 10 through this turn 11 sweeper right here, it's flat out. That's if you're by yourself. Side-by-side racing. The tower turn used to be a tower there. Big bump right at the apex. Then from turn 13 all the way down here to 15, flat out. You really hard through there. Most important corner on the racetrack, get right there. 16. It runs on the longest straightaway. Hardest corner brings you onto this straightaway, poured in 1940 with concrete. It's a little bit rough.
When you were born.
Hey. As these guys sit in their car on the grid waiting to go, they face an unknown, and that is the track conditions right now. Dorsey, you and Calvin talked about this racetrack, but it's brand new because it rained last night, and it rained hard. All the rubber that's been put down all week long is now gone. They're starting anew. Jamie.
Mark Bossing made his series debut here at Sebring. Mark, you're a factory test driver for Porsche. You've driven nearly all of your Porsche competitors, but with 5 other GT2 manufacturers, who's going to be the toughest to beat today?
Yeah, it will be a real challenge for us because it's really hot out there. The track is really tough to the cars, a lot of. And you know, if you're engineering a car in Germany, you don't have this difficult track for us. So we hope from Porsche that everything runs the 12 hours, but I see we have good luck.
He may be a new name to us here in the United States. There are many new names in this Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, but just watch them go. This is a star-studded, cool cars, unbelievable technology, and some very, very talented drivers. We'll also give you some pretty interesting points of view. Our Speed Onboard Pass, it has started. If you log on to speedtv.com and the Speed Onboard Pass, you can hear pit-to-car communication and these onboards as well. We've got the Audi, Marco Werner aboard there, the 7 Porsche, the Penske Porsche of Tim Bernard, plenty more, the Acura. Young Marco Andretti, he just turned 21 this week, and he has been creating some of the most exciting talk and just scenes turn 1 with his pedal to the floor. No fear from Marco Andretti. I mentioned about the Speed Onboard Pass presented by Acura. Log on now and you can get whatever you like, what needs to keep you closest to this racing. See it from the driver's point of view and hear what the teams have to say. Right throughout our classes, P1, P2, GT1, GT2, 4 classes of cars on the track at the one time, all fighting for individual honours and overall honours. Time now to turn our attention to how they will line up our 4 respective class pole sitters. It is the Acura starting grid.
Lindo Capello, Stefano Belbo, Piemonte, Italy.
Hi, I'm Alan McNish from Dumfries in Scotland.
I'm Tom Christensen, born in Hobro, Denmark.
Hello, I'm Romain Dumas. I was born in Alès in France.
Hi, I'm Timo Bach in Hamburg, Germany.
Emmanuel. I'm living in France, in Paris.
Hi, I'm Johnny O'Connell from Flowery Branch, Georgia.
Hi, I'm Jan Magnussen, and I'm from Roskilde, Denmark.
Hi, I'm Ron Fellows from Toronto, Canada.
From Cascavel, Brazil.
From Helsinki, Finland.
I'm Jimmy Bruni, and I'm coming from Italy.
There you have it, our 4 respective classes. Now let's hear from a man who has plenty of experience and success here at Sebring. He's with Andrew.
Yes, indeed. 3 victories here, Ron, fellows, but you're meant to have hung up that helmet. You're still racing.
Well, thank you, Andrew. Quite simply, want another shot at Le Mans. So that's and Sebring's the first step for go back to Le Mans. So that is.
Thanks very much.
We wish Ron well, and his legion of fans are very excited to see him back. We are coming to green. This is turn 17. The final one. Will Peugeot set the pace, or will they haunt Audi? Will Audi run away? Fascinating storylines here at the 56th Mobil 1, 12 hours of Sebring. Fight is on the front row, and Sebring is underway.
Capello got the jump, but look at Manassian around the outside. He squeezes Capello down towards the wall.
And Marco Andretti swoops right around the outside, too far. Andretti is off.
Out in the marbles there, Dorsey. We had a lot of rain here yesterday. The track is green. That's that funnel effect. That's field there in the 37 machine.
Boy, I can't believe he did a great job saving that, going off the outside of one in that grass. Big mistake at the beginning.
Confidence high. He's been the driver in that corner all weekend. And I think he thought he could have made up a lot more ground than what he wanted. Ran a little wide, but everything's okay with the XM Satellite Acura.
Christian Polly, Dorsey said that he hadn't put a foot wrong all weekend long, the youngster Marco Andretti, but lap 1, he was excited. There just wasn't the grip on the turn as he got forced wide.
Well, there's huge frustration because of the cancel of qualifying. They thought that car could be on the pole. They thought Marco could be a pole position contester.
Right, Timo Bernard, the first of 2 Penske Porsches. Let's take you back. Opening lap, first turn. Look to the right-hand side of your screen.
Oh, stack up right here might have something to do with it.
Look
off to the right.
Marco outside there, Dorsey. He was forced outside, otherwise he's going to the back of the yellow Spider right in front of him. So,
and that was all caused because of a stack up way up in the front of them. Everybody had to scurry.
Father watching on, a little concerned, but everything okay. Tony Kanaan in the background. Tony was in this ride last year, so it was Dindo Capello in second place who checked up. Meanwhile, look at the Peugeot, look at the lead it has on the open.
Stretching it out, the 2 Audis, Capello and Werner run one behind the other, but meanwhile, that they've shown in testing and in practice, will they be able to demonstrate in race trim? They weren't able to repeat that at Le Mans last year. They had the pole, Dorsey, but the Audis were strong in race trim.
Yeah, they were a lot stronger. It doesn't look like it's that way today, not so far anyway. Way to go. The question is about the Peugeot and whether or not they can run it, stay together on this very rough racetrack.
Talking about running at a pace, what about John Field? The private sport team, in amongst all the factories, is running 4th at the moment. It's a big winner from that turn 1 mix-up. Here's one of the new Porsches, the Team Horag Racing team of Freddie Leinhard, Didier Tays and Jan Lammers. Great lineup. They're very excited about their new car.
Here we see 2 of the Acura teams. That's David Brabham in the number 9 Patron car. And here comes Marco Andretti. Is there any damage to that car? These cars, error-wise, are really sensitive. He took a rough there, Dorsey. He's got to feel things out.
You're right, Calvin. Most of the time you get these cars off the racetrack like he did at the speed he was going, and it tears the under tray in some way underneath the bottom of the car, and that is an integral part of the downforce that these cars create. If it gets a hole in it, you lose all your effect.
On the inside, Brabham looks at the Team Horag Porsche and gets there. Squeezes by the 27 of Jan Lammers. Now it's Andretti to take it about. It's Peugeot, Audi, and then the Intersport Lola. The AER of John Field, ahead of Luis Diaz in the Lowe's Fernandez Acura. That is the car in P2. Jan Magnussen leads GT1, and Jamie Mello in the Risi Ferrari leads GT2. We ride with Andretti.
G through here is unbelievable. The neck load that it gives you, Dorsey. You really got to be prepared for this very difficult racetrack.
Yeah, this racetrack, not only the G load you get around here, but the bumps are so bad you really get pummeled around. It's physically, as a driver, I can tell you, the hardest racetrack to drive on.
Marco Andretti on the veteran Jan Lammers and squeezes through. That's a position gone. He continues the climb back.
A lot of talk in testing about Acura coming with their newly developed car having too much downforce, but you saw there Acura versus Porsche, and Andretti had a little bit more speed.
Watching the field come on through, let's switch back to GT2, and it is Jamie Mello, the man who muscled his way to victory here last year, on the way to giving Risi Competizione second team championship And of course, he and former F1 driver Mika Salo, their first American Le Mans Series driver title. And this is where it happened. This is where he was door-to-door with Jörg Bergmeister. It's the new Ferraris running second with the current FIA GT2 champion, Dirk Muller, a former ALMS champion. Right the wheel of that blue, red and white Bell Micro Tafel Ferrari. And he has the first of the Flying Lizards hounding him.
Whoa, look at those cars jump around back there on the exit turn 2.
Now, Wolf Hensler's driving the Porsche we were on board with. They're supposed to be driving that Ferrari this year, but he got the Porsche factory contract. That was his dream. He made a last-minute change. Now he stays in a Porsche.
Remember last year, that battle all the way to the checkered flag in GT2, the Ferrari out. Well, I talked to this team. They said they will change rotors and pads this year on the front. They'll get to the halfway mark, and any full course caution after that. They've got a system by which they can take the rotors and the caliper pads out, put a new assembly on, and do it in less than a minute, guys. So they're not going to run out of brakes this year.
This is the fight for second in GT2.
And riding on board, Calvin, these two cars, look how remarkably close they are. They accelerate at the same rate. They seem to corner and brake at the same rate. We went all the way down the straightaway on board with the Porsche, and the Ferrari really didn't have anything on it.
Porsche vowed that they were going to come back stronger. Look at there, Mueller a little bit wide, still gets to the apex. Look how hard they're working, Dorsey. They're not just stuck to the ground, they're really jockeying around over the here at Sebring.
And that's Sebring for you. Watch these bumps. They launch you up in the air, and it takes a toll on the suspension, but also on the driver. Tires also, we haven't talked a lot about tires yet. Tires will be an issue before this race is over, I guarantee it.
Spoke to Lucas Luhr and Rocky yesterday about the pressures of Sebring. How demanding is it? Lucas said you do 2 hours here, you are spent. You could do 4 hours at Le Mans and feel fresh as a daisy. That's how tough this racetrack is.
Well, while we enjoy this thrilling GT2 battle for second in class, up front, Dindo Capello has taken a 10th out of Manassian, so it's down to 1.5 seconds, the lead margin. Good fighting amongst all 4 categories out on track. It is Nicholas Manassian who leads the way, and on debut here at Sebring. What a way to start. We're up and away. Lots of strong family ties, lots of tradition. Sebring, it's all about heritage. Welcome back to Speeds Live and exclusive coverage of the Mobil 1 12 hours of Sebring round 1 of the American Le Mans Series for 2008. And one of the big storylines, the storyline, is Peugeot coming to America, coming to Sebring with this amazing 908, the HDI FP, the diesel-powered V12 closed-top prototype to take the fight to Audi's diesel open-top prototype. They led almost by 2 seconds, but Brian Till, do you have more? It's down now to 1.3 seconds.
Well, Lee, we're not the only ones watching that Peugeot. Roger Penske watching it as well. I heard him talking to the guys in the cars. He said Peugeot's out in front, but he has slowed dramatically. What happened was it looked like those first 2 laps, he'd made the jump that he wanted, got to a comfortable lead, and somebody down in the Peugeot camp said, that's far enough. Let's rein it in and keep the distance right where it is. How fast can the Peugeot go?
Do you remember the years, well, not years and years, but we've sat here a number of times, boys, and we've said, wouldn't it be great if just Audi had someone to push them? Well, now we've got it.
And I think that's good. I mean, I think the boys are relishing it. The TKs, the Tom Christensens, Alan, they love a battle. And yes, they always had the inter-squad rivalry, Dorsey. But there's something special. You did it in your Trans Am days, Ford versus Chevy, battles like that. This is another classic one shaping up for this season.
Well, it pushes you further, doesn't it? I mean, your intercontinental thing is one thing, but I mean, you really get your adrenaline up when there's someone outside the camp that's pushing on you. And one thing I have to question right now is that this Audi, of course, I've driven. It's a very comfortable car to drive, and it's very cool to drive because your head's out there in the air. But that Peugeot with that hard top today, with this high humidity, with this high heat, I'm just wondering what toll those drivers are going to take to go the full distance.
That's the state of play in P1. In P2, we have a new class leader. There it is, the DHL Penske Porsche of Timo Bernard, the defending P2 class champion of the series. He and Romain Dumas tied it up last year with a dominant performance. They have managed to get by the Lowe's Fernandez Acura of Luis Diaz. Different strategy coming from the Fernandez camp. They're only running 2 drivers, just like Chris Dyson and Guy Smith at Dyson Racing. Let's take you back and show you during the commercial break. This is how Timo did it.
Here he is, he's shaping him up and then just ducks to the inside. Luis thought he had the ground covered. Dorsey, Timo took him by surprise, released the brakes and just scooted to the inside there. Nice clean move.
And that's turn 17. It's a wide open kind of a corner. You can approach it from many angles.
Here we're on board with Timo now, heading down that long back straightaway.
Oh, little bug.
The second Porsche, the Penske Porsche, is third in class. Then the first of the Dysons fourth, and then Chris Dyson fifth. So Porsche's well represented. Porsches have the edge in P2 at the moment over the Acura.
This could be a problem for Timo Bernhard, the lead yellow car there in the number 7 machine. He's coming up on John Field, who's one of the P1 machines, who had a magnificent start here, but John doesn't give way easily. He's a very tough race car driver. He doesn't have the same speed in his machine. Look at him there, Dorsey, locking up. He's sideways. He's really scrambling. Timo nearly runs into him.
This will allow Diaz to get up on the back.
Yeah, it will. They're going to stack up behind John. John's doing everything he can not to drop behind these guys. You saw the Dyson around slipping.
I love John's racing spirit. He doesn't care. Here comes Diaz. Let's look at the Acura versus Porsche power. Diaz looks to the inside under braking.
Keeping Timo Bernhard honest. John Field, they weren't quite happy with the setup of that. And you can see there, struggling, runs a little wide. Bernhard is through. Diaz is through. Masson is lining up for a shot as well. No, Diaz is not through. Field fights back. This is for a top 5 position overall. And that's exactly where John said he would like to finish come 10 o'clock tonight. If I could be in the top 5 overall, it would be a huge accomplishment for this team.
Well, he doesn't care, Dorsey. He paid his entry fee.
Right, no, you're going to have to fight your way to go by John. He doesn't give up anything. That's a 145-mile-an-hour chess game going on.
And look at Timo Bernhard. It's allowed him some breathing room. Diaz needs to get it done right here, right now. Through Bishop's Bend. This is a very fast, scary section of the track. Commitment plus.
The downforce that these cars are generating this year is just tremendous. They keep raising the bar. There are literally new development pieces being flung overnight, hanging on the race cars all week long.
Let's hear more from Camp Fernandez. Chris?
Well, we can see Adrian Fernandez very frustrated right now as he's watching our coverage of his driver trying to get around John Field. Adrian, what is Luis going through right now as he's trying to work his way around the P1 car?
Well, he did a fantastic start, and the problem is passing John right now. We're quicker through the corners and he's faster on the straight, and that really slows down your rhythm. And sometimes by trying to pass him, you lose a little bit of momentum. So we hope we can pass him soon, because that's critical right now.
You and Luis are doing this as a 2-man team. How tough is this race doing better than 3?
It's tough. It's tough, but we worked out a lot last month, and we really want to make sure. Well, that's. I think we have no more problem right now.
Well, John.
So I think we're good. It's a long race. Luis is doing a good job. We just have to make sure we stay out of trouble.
Well, now Field is out of the way, so hopefully Luis can get back up to Timo.
Chris, I saw that coming with it while you were talking there. First happened is that when they got into the corner, he locked up the brake like he did the time before. John Field gets in too deep. He's feeling the pressure from behind. He locks the brake. You're going to see the smoke first. It's going to come right about now. There's your tire smoke. Now he's offline. He hits the bump, gets sideways. Now here he spins. Everybody does a scramble not to hit him.
We saw at the lap before, Dorsey, the brake bias, which can be adjusted within the cockpit. That's the amount of pressure that you're getting to the front and rear tires. You can balance that out. He was locking up the rears the lap before, and as the tires get worn a little bit, it gets worse.
There is a big mover in this pack, and it is that car right there. Marco Andretti has been a big winner. Luis Diaz lost out after he went on the grass to avoid the field spin, and Leitzinger got through. Chris Dyson looked like he got through, but previous to that, Andretti had got by David Brabham, and this car here is making some ground and making it fast.
He did it in spectacular fashion. I did catch that on the screen. He actually went around the outside, Dorsey. That's a youngster behind the wheel. Yeah. The outside of David Brabham through 17, the corner he's in right now.
You know, that turn 3 area has got really tall curbs, so if you got to jump that curb, it's not a good thing at all. And when somebody spins, you have nowhere to go.
You know, guys, I've been pretty amazed with these teams looking at their computers and watching all the telemetry coming off these cars, especially after Diaz and Marco went off the racetrack early in this race. I've been listening to the teams, and there's been no communication back and forth between the drivers, so the engineers really just relying on that telemetry, making sure that the car is okay. But I would think that at some point now, the driver would want to check in and just tell the team if there are any handling issues with the car.
Marco Andretti told us earlier this week, even though he has not raced at Sebring before in the Mobil 1 12 hours, he is going to employ patience. His dad's told him, his granddad's told him, he executes the move beautifully on Chris Dyson.
And so, yeah, right. That was patience. Let's go. I got a fast race car. As he told the course the weekend, Lee, you and I are standing with him having a nice chat with he and his father, Michael. He said, if the car can do it, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to try and be patient, not take any unnecessary risk. But we talked about him going through turn 1 flat in the sessions. He said the car feels right. You know, it's just what I do as a race car driver.
Now, riding on board here, look, this is your dash area. You'll notice there are no gauges. There's no gauges the driver has to concentrate on. Instead of that, there are LED lights that tell you when to shift, tell you what's going on. If something goes wrong, say the water temperature comes up, then a light will light up and tell you that too. But there's no gauges. You don't have to worry about it.
And this is a sophisticated piece of equipment. The electronics on these LMP2 and LMP1 prototypes is something else. Not quite at Formula 1 level, but not too far behind. Look at this. Andretti gets the run down the back straight, and he's side by side with Butch Leitzinger. The run into 17. And look at the legs on that Porsche.
I think it's downforce. Porsche has great power, but also downforce. The downforce in these cars that sticks you to the ground can cause drag down the straightaways.
Marco's got to go wide here. There's a Tafel Ferrari there onto the main straight. This is great racing for the opening half hour of the 56th Mobil 1 12 hours of Sebring. It's like the last hour, but it's the first.
Marco had that set up to go to the inside, but unfortunately Tafel's car was there.
That was Alan Simonsen in the 73 car. He nearly squeezed over to the exit wall off of 17. A close call.
I'm really surprised these guys are showing this much aggression this early. Heck, this is a 12-hour race, boys. It's not even in the end of the first hour yet.
Fun though, isn't it, Dorf?
It is fun.
There's Sasha Masson. He's been allowed a little bit of breathing room. He got the quick passage through when John Field spun earlier. But Marco Andretti is a young man on a mission. We'll see how he goes when we come back. Speed's coverage of the American Le Mans Series 12 Hours of Sebring is brought to you by Audi. The truth is out, it's powerful, and it's available at your Audi dealer now. Audi, in engineering. And by Michelin, a better way forward. The lead to this Peugeot, this diesel-powered Peugeot prototype, has grown to over 5 seconds ahead of Dindo Capello in the Audi Sport North America R10. Peugeot, Audi overall and in LMP1, and then in 4th overall is Timo Bernard. That's what it looks like, 1st to 2nd to 3rd. Manassian to Capello to Marco Werner.
One of the problems that the Audi has been having, we talked about the massive weight in the back of the car with these big diesel engines. They've really been struggling to get the rear end settled under Dorsey with that massive weight. It doesn't matter what traction control system you have. Once that weight, we saw with Christensen, it's really hard to get the car back underneath you. Dindo Capello said they made a setup change on the #1 car. Is a lot happier towards the end of the week. The 2 cars been struggling in a different area, too much understeer in the car that Werner's currently driving.
Well, it acts like a pendulum effect when you've got that weight behind at the back like that, and when it starts to step out, you know, just all that momentum gets going.
From P1 to GT1, and it's Jan Magnussen in the Corvette C6R, the very tough-looking C6R this year with those black wheels, new livery, brand new car, both 3 and the 4. And program director Doug Feehan was telling us they've had enormous success in the off-season over the winter in terms of selling the old cars, and all of the specs. Been a tremendous interest from Europe for the Le Mans series, and running with guys like Luke Alphon, who are the ex-factory Corvettes. So Corvettes racing all over the world.
Of course, the euro versus the dollar has a great deal to deal with the interest, I'll tell you that.
The 2 Ollies, Ollie Gavin and Olivier, actually going to be running for Luke Alphon over in Europe quite a bit this year, trying to keep the rust off. Of course, Olivier Beretta is used to running the Michelin Formula 1 tire testing program. That's gone away over the last 12 months, of course. Now dominated by Bridgestone. But Jan Magnussen had an interesting quote this week, Lee, that I saw. He said, "Why are you so brave?" And he said, "Well, I've tasted hospital food. It's not that bad."
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, he's got no taste then.
He almost tasted hospital food last year at Petit. Remember that horrifying off going down through the S's. But, you know, this is one of the good news stories of the 2008 season in the American Le Mans Series, and there are many. But A question mark hanging over Corvette's participation in the ALMS this year, and they came back, Doug Feehan and Steve Wesolowski, and they said, we are in, we're great, we're very excited to be partnering with the E85 alternative fuel program, and lots of positives ahead. And of course, this is step one in getting back to Le Mans in 2008 and winning. They do not like being beaten at Circuit de la Sarthe, so this is stage one in that program, and that stage one involves winning the Mobil 112 Hours of Sebring yet again. And don't think for a minute, there is Steve Wesolowski, don't think for a minute that this rivalry between the 3 and the 4 is diluting or dissipating. It's not. It is just as intense as ever. One team car wants to beat the other team car big time.
It's amazing. I mean, the engineers are over data, Dorsey, late into the night. The drivers are working on their driver changes, trying to shave precious tenths off. So they know that when they get to Le Mans this year, there's going to be a fierce GT1 battle. They have to have sharpened their tools. They have to be really on top of their game and be ready for it.
And if Sebring is known for anything, it's known for one thing. It's breaking things. Sebring breaks things. On the Corvettes here before, they've broken all sorts of things, brake rotors here, diffs here. It shows them what's going to happen, and you fix it. Whatever breaks, you make it stronger, and then, you know, it doesn't break. And you go to a place like Le Mans, which is much smoother, and you run trouble-free.
This is the lead P2 car, Timo Bernard, and a brand new Penske Porsche at that. Revised aero, improved engine. They've been working away. Some things that you can't see from the outside, you have to get up very close to these Porsche RS Spiders to see some of the changes, just tapering of the bodywork, additional aero devices underneath the car, particularly at the front, just to get it perform better. They have the edge on Acura as far as time in this series, but they know how determined HPD and Acura are to beat them this year.
And Acura are very concerned about this engine that's in this car. As we understand, it's direct injection now, Dorsey. And talking to Stefan Johansson yesterday, he said, I know what that gave Audi. He said, gives you great fuel efficiency, more power. That's like having a downforce setup.
Whoa!
High downforce.
Oh, big trouble here.
The 46 lizard car.
That is turn 1, possibly.
And
no, it's not.
It's Johannes van Overbeek, Dors.
Turn 3.
Johannes van Overbeek is backwards into the tyre barrier. One of the lead drivers for the team. There's an Audi involved.
He's going to clip him. Yeah, he clipped him all right and sent him right into the grass.
So it's the first of the Audi, so I think that would have been Capello. I saw another Audi coming into the screen, so that is the trouble there when these guys get a little bit impatient. Tough corner. We talked about the funnel effect coming down into turn 3. Here you see it. I believe it's Capello. Takes the line away from him.
Boy, you know, there's been harsh words in this series about the guys in the P1, P2 cars not giving the GT cars enough room, and that was clearly a case where he cut him off, he chopped him off. This car badly hurt left rear corner.
And Johannes van Overbeek will be...
I've got drive, and it feels like at least a broken axle. I'm barely creeping in first gear at 4,000 RPM.
Ooh.
I hit really hard going backwards.
Copy that. Most likely we're going to send you straight back to the paddock. Keep talking to me as you come around. Let me know how the car is.
Yeah, he's not going to make it if he was 4,000 in first gear. That's going to require a tow.
He will be in disbelief that that occurred. Ironically, at the driver's briefing yesterday, Director of Competition Tim Mayer warned the P2 cars to be mindful of the GT cars, and there it was a prototype 1 car.
Trouble here on the right rear. You see also damage probably from contact with someone. It's an under tray piece, so it might have been off the road a bit.
Don't get confused here. Chris Dyson and Guy Smith are in the number 16 car, switching from the number 20 car of last year, so that isn't a... Bit of a break here, catching that yellow to the race car. Very easy to lose, at least half a lap, Dorsey, if not more, by making a stop under green.
And you heard the call to stay out there till the pace car comes out. That's a strategy call. However, with that body rub, of course, he risked cutting down the tire, and we've seen what happens when these tires come apart. It's huge damage.
He needs to ease it up a little bit, just stay cool, pack, get back together, so he doesn't lose any track position by pitting early.
So 28 minutes into the race, our first full course caution. If you've just joined us, created by a collision between Audi's Dindo Capello and Flying Lizard Porsche driver Johannes van Overbeek, who you on the line there. creeping, crawling back to the pits and the paddock.
Driver, that is his job. He's doing a great job. That car is very badly damaged, and he has got to get it back to the pits. So actually, he's going to bring it back to the paddock behind the pits so they can look if it can be repaired or not.
Problem is, Dorsey, he's going to tour all 3.7 miles, possibly flailing carbon fiber, little sharp pieces that can cut down the competitors' tires. So this is one of the things you're going to get in a race like this. When the bodywork starts to fly, it can have consequences for everyone.
We will take advantage of this first full course caution. We'll go to break, get this commercial away, and try and come back by the time the are open. Action here at Sebring. We really encourage you to get the ultimate two-screen experience. Speed onboard pass lets you hear pit-to-car communication, and all you have to do is log on to tv.com right now. The keyword accurate for the Speed onboard pass, taking you deeper into this Mobil 1 12 hours of Sebring. Pit stops everywhere. Tell us more, Chris.
Seth Nyman showed up with 3 cars. One of those cars was just in the wall. Did Johannes say anything on the radio?
I have not spoken to Johannes, and of course he's focused on about the damage to the cars. He tries to bring it back.
Any idea how or why he ended up in the wall? Did he say anything to the team?
Of course he's not focused on that. The reason made it clear that one of the Audis just took him off hard. It'll be a good opportunity for our new race director to demonstrate what he's made of.
Obviously some frustration down here in Flying Lizard. Still trying to get their first Sebring win.
Yeah, that was hard. Watch how hard he goes into the tire. It's a big impact.
You know, because that was not in turn 3. It was actually at the exit of 1 is when they started racing. It was at the entrance of 2, which is flat out. So that car was running at about 140 miles per hour when he was taken off the road there.
I think Lando was surprised at the wide sweep that Johannes was setting up there for turn 2. He realizes that's the dirty part of the racetrack. He got on the brakes. But most importantly, took the line away. You got to clear the car before you can go back online.
As the cars come through, there's some pretty big news out there because the overall leader stays the same, but there's movement in P2. We'll tell you more in just a moment. Brian, you're first up.
Interesting stuff down here in the pits. The Peugeot came in as the leader, went back out as the leader. Fuel, but no tires, and that is strange. Everybody up and down pit road, including Audis, the 2 Penske Porsches, every car that I saw took tires, and why wouldn't you? It's a full course caution. It's an unknown. The track is, so you don't know what air is going to be like or anything else. The Peugeot came in, filled it with fuel, and sent him right back out. So a bit strange that they did not take tires on that stop, and it may come back to haunt them, guys.
Johannes Van Overbeek taking off his helmet, getting out of the car. Obviously some frustration down here so early in the race. What happened on the racetrack?
One of the Audis under braking came over and hit me and went right off into the wall. It was a big hit, and completely unnecessary, not even out of the first 12 hours. So really upsetting for the short tail Lee Silicon Flying Lizard Porsches. We've been here, seems like the last 2 months preparing for this, and just a shame that the careless actions of one destroys it for many. And it was just tell my wife at home I'm okay.
Well, obviously the team just got the car up in the air, but any idea to the extent of the damage?
I don't. It was a really good hit going backwards, so, you know, we just need to check the car over, make sure everything's okay and safe, and we'll get back out there.
Last year seemed to be a lot of conflict between the prototype drivers and the GT drivers starting very early this year.
Well, encouraging that Johannes is okay. The news that I was alluding to before, boys, in P2, we've got a new leader, Marco Andretti Green Racing, executed a beautiful pit stop to get him out to lead the P2 class.
Well, the question will be there, did they take tires? I mean, the best in the business in terms of getting the fuel into the car quickly, have a very well orchestrated crew, so I would have to guess that Marco's crew did not take tires. But look at the fact that Peugeot did not take tires, Dorsey. 2 things. One, I'm surprised. Early in the race, you want to get a read on the wear rate, the different, but it could be ominous that they're confident enough. They actually double stint. We didn't see Audi do that with his diesel technology in the heavy all of last year.
One thing we know for sure, when you do double stint, the second stint you begin to fall off on. If that should happen, then the P2 cars run relatively to the same speed as the P1 cars. So it's a very brave move.
Now this isn't going to be a full double stint. We're only 35 minutes in, so it'd essentially be like a stint and a half. But again, surprising decision, as Brian said. But if they're thinking that,
oh boy,
look out.
They are here. Peugeot are here. First and foremost, make no mistake about that. they also like to say they are here to prepare for Le Mans. Yes, but they are ready to win, and they come with a very open attitude, an open approach. They really want to take the fight to beyond Audi. Reminding you to check out AmericanLeMans.com and all of its new video homepage that includes exclusive content from the series and its new partner, SpeedTV.com, the most comprehensive coverage in the series history, both on and off the racetrack. AmericanLeMans.com. We're just getting exciting start. First caution out of the way. We'll go racing when we come back. To prediction, it was forecast to be a warm, windy day here in Sebring, and that is the way it's going. The teams and drivers in Florida will be tested today, that's for sure. What an enjoyable start. There's a little bit of a pause at the moment. The opening out situated by one full course caution. However, that is coming to an end, and we are just about ready to go back racing. But Brian, tell us more.
You know, everybody's watching everybody, and Roger Penske certainly has his spies out. He was just telling the guys on the team, the Acuras in front of you did not take tires. So Roger Penske knows what's going on, not only in his pit, but all up and down pit lane.
Well, I think there on the 26 machine, Andretti Green Racing have one of the best tire engineers in the business, Donnie Wilson from Michelin. He would have made that call. He felt very confident over the course of this weekend, Dorsey, that they could double stint there. Some softer stuff when it cools down tonight. But he said, yeah, I think we can double stint and maybe some of our competitors cannot. So good call there.
Chris, you have more on the 26?
The 46 sitting here in pit lane. Lots of damage to this left rear corner. They're having to change all the suspension on that corner and also the axle. The team's estimating about 15 minutes of time to try and get this car back. Really working hard here. We're very early in this race, and they know that if they can get it out there quick, hopefully they can get back, maybe gain a few more spots. They got to get those precious points. This is the first race of the season.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. It's not only a driver's championship, it's a manufacturer's championship, a team championship, and Flying Lizard have 3 Porsches in this race. We've got 2 first-timers at Sebring sitting in the top 4 positions, Nicholas Manassian and Marco Andretti, first and 4th. But they lead their respective classes, and you hear the call, green, 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 let's go back to racing. And the Peugeot leads the team.
Big gap there. There's Marco. One of the problems when you stay on the hot tires during a caution period, you get pickup. There's little balls of rubber around the racetrack. When guys change tires, their tires are cold. Marco Andretti was on hot tires. He may have to clean those off in these first laps.
Now, like you said, Calvin, it wasn't a full stint on those tires, so I think Marco will be okay. I think Donnie made the right call there. It's early in the race to see what happens on a double stint.
Not only good work by Andretti Green Racing, how about Patron Highcroft Racing? Because David Brabham is immediately behind this car. Running strong. Lammers, also good work, good strategy from Team Horag Racing and Dyson Racing. The Penske Porsches are playing catch-up somewhat. A little further down that P2 order. We ride with Brabham right now.
Andretti very wide.
Very
Loses
wide.
a little bit of time. That could be that pickup issue.
Absolutely, you're right, Calvin. He missed that apex by quite a bit. And your pickup issue is that what it does, you turn the steering wheel and the car doesn't turn. Either that or he got into the corner with too much speed and it wouldn't turn, but in any event.
With these 2 Acuras, the one you're riding with, looking at up front, there's significant change this year, not only with the car, which we will detail throughout the course of this broadcast, but changes in the driver division. David Brabham with Stefan Johansson last year. He'll now be teamed with Scott Sharp in Patron Highcroft Racing. And in Andretti Green, Brian Herder teams up with Fittipaldi for the whole season. Penalty to car 1. We hear for contact with the 46 of Johannes van Overbeek.
He did not go into the pits. Watch the start-finish line right here. There is the black flag. He will have to bring the car in first.
Penalty, box, stop and go.
There you hear it.
Box means pit. That's the terminology that the Audi squad uses, so.
And the penalty box is out. At pit out, he'll have to bring the car there, stop there, and then there'll be a marshal who tells them he can go on into the race again.
Yes, it's slightly beyond their own respective pit boxes all by itself. and Capello must go. If you've just joined us, this is what we're talking about. Contact between a P1 car, that there, the Audi R10, and the Porsche 911 of Johannes van Overbeek.
And this is not, I don't think, intentional contact by any means. I'm sure he thought he had cleared the Porsche and he started to move back across the racetrack, but you have to be a little bit more cognizant of the small guy. Look at the damage it's done to this Porsche by going into that wall. Both those cars are going a lot different in speed. This car, 133 miles per hour at that point. Now the other car, the Audi, 160 miles per hour.
The other thing we've got to talk about, the Peugeot did not take fresh tyres either, so Manassian may be struggling with pickup on his tyres. It will typically take a good couple of laps here, so longer lap here, so maybe 1 lap around Sebring, 2 laps on a normal length racetrack to get cleaned off. You really have to work hard, really giving us some steering input during that caution lap to really try and scrub in those front tyres. Otherwise, you're going to have issues. Dindo Capello will probably pit at the end of this lap. He should have communication, but we talk about that diesel technology. These race cars don't sound like race cars. They're quiet.
And I think Dindo's asking for clarification on why you have to pit. What's it all about? Well, it's penalty, and I think he's going to serve it here. He's in. Capello is in. So that will take 1 car off the tail of Nicholas Manassian, but Marco Werner is not too far back.
Now he's got to do pit lane speed limit. So this is
Dindo. Up in the penalty box. Penalty box. Keep engine running. Just come to a standstill and then go again.
This is Howden Haynes on the radio. He's the engineers for the #1 car. Find to Dindo where he needs to stop. That's right near his own pit box. Beyond. And it's a stop and go. He stalls it. Didn't keep life in the engine. He's away. Unlike a normal pit stop, they don't have to kill the engine. Just stop and go.
And right behind him, the yellow car is the lead in GT1, so he's dropped back a considerable amount.
Well, he's dropped from 2nd to 12th overall.
But it's early in this 12-hour event. It really means nothing at this point, except it is a bit aggravating if you're the driver.
All right, so there's 1.3 seconds last time by between first and second. Nicholas Manassian on the right of your screen in the Peugeot, the Audi R10 of Marco Werner.
It could be that tire pickup, Calvin. You know, the car really twitched on him between corners back there.
I'm very surprised at the decision, just because that we had so much rain here yesterday. The track is completely different. They had a short warm-up session this morning where no one ran many laps, so you wouldn't have a good read on tire wear. Different track that they've been running all week long, so Peugeot made the call. They're obviously confident in the ability for the tire, the Michelin tire, to run a good stint and a half. But again, you know, the graining, the wearing when the racetrack is this green is very different when it's rubbered in.
I talked to the Michelin engineer right while I was down on the grid with Lee right before the start, and I asked him that question. What did the rain do? What are you looking for? He goes, well, typically it will increase the wear rate of this couple stints because there's no rubber down. The abrasive surface of the racetrack is going to chew away at these tires for a little while.
Well, Audi has just been slapped a penalty. Let's hear what one of the team drivers thinks.
Tom Christensen sitting back here. You look all relaxed, but it's not relaxed on the racetrack right now. You surprised by how aggressive it is?
No, not at all. That's Sebring. It's always everything. In the beginning, of course, a little bit of nervousness, but everyone is going flat out and going hard.
You guys have started from the back before taking the victory. This penalty that Dindo just had for the contact with the GT2 Porsche, how far does that set you back?
No, I mean it's disappointing in the moment, but I mean we have it, and we continue like nothing have happened.
And Dindo reminded me the other day, hey, in 2006 we had to start dead last. We won that one, guys, so maybe this penalty won't hurt him that bad.
He is a living legend, and with that kind of an outlook, that kind of a philosophy, it's over, we've served it, let's get on with it. That's why he has won 7 Le Mans 24 hours and 4 12 hours of. Great to have Tom back. Big news yesterday too, Audi committing to the full season of American Le Mans Series racing. There were some big question marks. They held everyone hanging, and then they finally let the news go yesterday that they will have 2 cars for all 11 rounds of the 2008 series. Great news. We welcome you back live to Sebring. You have not missed a thing while we're away. Nicholas Manassian in the Peugeot 908 still leads over Marco Werner by 2 seconds. And we are celebrating the beginning of the 10th anniversary season of the American Le Mans Series with things like the diverse range of manufacturers competing in the American Le Mans Series, 14 in total this year, spread across 4 classes of racing on the track at any one. We've got new drivers, new teams, new cars, and we've got plenty of news to tell you over this entire day's racing. Let's creep our way back to GT2, and they're not that far back, mind you. 16th overall is this man here, defending race winner, defending champion of the class, Jamie Mello, in the Risi Ferrari, brand new 08 430, and he leads over VC Racing's Craig Stanton in the Porsche.
Jamie just has so much confidence in these cars. Had a great championship run. He and Mika Salo last year, winning a bunch of races and taking the championship, the team championship, the manufacturers for Ferrari. I don't think it's going to be as easy this year.
Well, there is the enormous gap back. It's some 18 seconds, not to that car, but wait for the Porsche. There he is, finally. This is Craig. That shows you the advantage that Jamie Mello has at the moment. This is a new team, not to sports car racing by any stretch, but certainly to the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring for this year and the American Le Mans Series. This is, in fact, the Ray Hall Letterman Porsche from last year. This is a car that they have leased, I understand, for this race meeting with their own Cumming and Craig Stanton, driving with Uwe Alzen and Nathan Schwartzbach. Great driver lineup, and we know the record of the car.
We certainly do. A great car from last year. They had a number of great runs, didn't get that victory, but certainly knocked on the door a few times. And you know, this team have been in sports car racing for over 20 years. In fact, won the Daytona 4-hour race back in 1990. But Craig Stanton, other than our Dorsey Schrader, he is the fittest driver in motorsports.
Yeah, he's lucky I retired.
Yeah.
Well, that then leads us to another story too. Well, you know, some folks might be sitting at home and saying, why isn't Bobby running this car, the Ray Hall Letterman Group, because they've got big news on the horizon.
Yeah, running the full factory BMW M3 next year. That car is on site here. Hopefully we'll see some pictures of that before the race is over, but very exciting news that BMW are back on track. They went away to really focus on their Formula One program, but Dorsey, they are going to be strong. They have such a great record and history here in GT2 competition.
Well, they've always had a great presence, and of course it was disappointing to all the fans when they decided to put all it into F1, and they did so. Now they're coming back at it, and with Bobby Ray Hall Letterman team is going to be an outstanding addition to this series.
This car is third in class. The build-up about the Risi Blizzard battle, but how about some new teams? And well, this is their second appearance in the 12-hour. I'm talking about Farnbacher Lowell's Racing and Dirk Werner, who is a very fast driver. He won something off the top of my head, 3 24-hour races around the globe last year. And this could be the dark horse in this GT battle if they can hang in there with that incredible pace of the Ferrari 430.
This young driver is a stud. He's another one of these young German superstars. It's like they're a stereotype. You know, they sit him in a Porsche and they just go quick.
Chris, tell us more.
Well, Dirk Muller pulling the 71 Taffel car into pit lane. It looks like possibly a water leak on this car. He was reporting to the team that the running very high. They're taking the rear deck off to take a look here. They just fueled the car up, put them up in the air. Now they're going to try and see if they can find that water leak. He was reporting that the engine temperature running very high. Also the back end of the car moving around, so he thought he had some water leaking on those rear tires. So this team switching over to Ferrari this year. Pretty surprising with everything they had with Porsche running the past few years. The inventory that they had, they made that switch. Just they thought that Porsche was focusing too much on the Spider program, and they didn't want to have to think about that. They wanted to go with a manufacturer that was really going to focus on them and what they were doing. So they made the decision in November. Let's change everything over from Porsche over to Ferrari, and in their first go here, they've been very fast all weekend. However, right off the bat.
Let's take you back and show you more about Dirk Muller and the Bell Micro Ferrari.
I'd say it's leaking water, Calvin.
Yeah, and this is a devastating blow because these are very much in the hunt, not only for a win here today, but also the championship. And when you switch to a new car, it's one thing to make it go fast, but how do you fix it quickly?
That was the view from Wolf Hensler in the 45 Flying Lizard Porsche. This is the view high above here at Sebring, 1 and 2. The lead is down now less than a second as we leave you with our GT2 leaders. Need to remind you about Speed Swag. Log on to speedtv.com. The keyword is swag, and the wait is over. The all-new Speed Swag store is here, and you can look your best. You can look as slick as Calvin or Dorsey, and all the Speed polos, jackets, hats, and T-shirts. These guys are always giving our producers a hard time looking for free swag themselves, but now you guys can go to the website. News from the pits. Let's find out more.
Down here at the far end of pit lane, the number 6, Sasha Maschen in the Penske Porsche, having problems overheating, a lot of fluid on the back of that RS Spider, but right behind them, Ali Beretta is in the number 4 car. He's taken over from Oliver Gavin. They're running second in the GT1 class right now, and even though there are a limited number of cars in the GT1 class, don't bet on the fact that these 2 Corvettes aren't going at it tooth and nail. Johnny O'Connell will be taking over in the number 3 right after this.
You can see the smoke coming out of the back of the Porsche. Problems here. This is not scheduled, that's for sure.
This is a huge story. Remember, this is the one track on the American Le Mans Series schedule that Roger Penske has not won with these RS Spiders. They had input shaft issues 2 years ago. Electrical gremlins cost them the victory last year. This is not what Roger Penske wants to be looking down and seeing so early in the race.
Well, and Calvin, we never saw problems engine related in years past. It was all drivetrain. We saw some alternator problems the first year, but right now a lot of fluid on the back of this Porsche engine, and Roger Penske said on the radio a minute ago, take the airbox off, let's take a look. That's what they're doing. Taking the airbox off, the trumpet's coming out of the top, and there's fluid everywhere. It's all coolant. So right now, that is not good news. When you get the coolant coming out, there is a serious problem, and Dorsey knows all about that. Right behind, now the second of the Corvettes will be coming in. It's the number 3. Johnny O'Connell will be taking over. It'll be his 18th start here at the 12 Hours of Sebring. 6 times he's won this event. If he can win it again, he'll take the overall title for those who have won this event the most times in different classes. O'Connell now taking over. Magnussen out of the car, and he wants to win this desperately. He said, not only do I want the record, but I want another win at Sebring. Jan Magnussen, standing right beside him at the time, said, and I want to give it to him. Goes back to the battle between these 2 Corvettes. There may not be a lot of GT1 cars, but these guys are fighting hard, and the real race between these cars takes place right here in the pits. It's the crews that can get them out in front of the other one, and the outlap on cold tires is going to be absolutely critical. The fueling is done. 4 new Michelin's going on. They dropped the car, and Johnny O'Connell is gone.
6 times he's been victorious here, 1 of them overall. And the Corvette crew is slick as ever. But the Penske car, the 6, remains stationary in the lane, and that is problematic. The sister car, Timo Bernard, has worked his way to 2nd in class, and he is just a little over a second behind Marco Andretti. These guys are taking it behind the wall.
Going behind the wall. If there's a lot of work to be done, they can add crew members to make the fix a little bit quicker. And this is where the orchestration comes in, Dorsey. If it's something they can fix, the team needs to work together as a unit and not get in each other's way.
And for the people at home that watch that Corvette pit stop that don't normally watch American Le Mans Series, they might have been questioning why didn't they put tires on the car while they were doing all this other work. Well, in the ALMS Series, you have to get the fueling done and completed before any mechanics can go to work changing tires or other things. That's the answer to that question if you were wondering.
This is the closest we've seen it. Have a look at this. Werner putting the pressure on Manassian. Less than a second between them, and there is just 1 second between 1st and 2nd in P2. Bit of a bumpy moment there for Werner, but he gets it back on track. Individual class leaders as we go to break. Speed's coverage of the American Le Mans Series 12 Hours of Sebring is brought to you by Fresh from Florida and by Acura. Acura, advance. The lure of this incredible race is just too much on an annual basis. They just keep coming back and back. Oh, off. Our second place, our lead Audi is off the racetrack. We saw him make an error when we went to the commercial break in the same corner. A little squirrely, a little loose, untidy, but now he's taken it one step further and left the racetrack. That really opens up the lead margin now for Nicholas Manassian.
I think he got away with it. I don't think he suffered any damage. There you see him weaving, try to clean those tires off so he doesn't go straight off on the next turn that he approaches, but been really struggling getting the front end of this number 2 machine down. Spoke to Lucas Luhr. He said the car's really not right now. We saw that replay of him in practice going wide in turn 17. He said when it hits the bump and takes off, they lose the front end. It washes out, Dorsey. That's what happened to Werner there.
Well, I just made the comment before that that car was getting loose, but when you got a car that's really too tight, the back end will kick out. Well, right on board here, this is braking for that hairpin. Oh, he's out of control in the brake area. He's loose. The car losing
and
grip.
That's exactly what we showed at the top of the show when he spun in yesterday's final practice session.
We see it coming in there. That's where Christensen had his issue.
Is there a brake drama for the Audi R10?
Well, they had big problems early in the season last year, particularly on the street circuits, to the point that they've actually taken away the shrouds around the front rotors, but not on the rear rotors on these Audis. They were getting too hot, overheating the calipers, so they've taken some of the shrouding away to get more cooling to the rear end of the car. So it could be braking, it could be a setup issue still.
I just checked with Mike Rockenfeller, Calvin, and Marco had radioed in and said the car is very nervous under brake. So I think you're right about the braking issue. Perhaps they don't have the cooling that they want to have right now. They're still working on, as you alluded to, the ducting to those brakes. And right now, to be doing the job for Marco Werner.
Well, the car's been stepping out a lot, you know, on the exits of these corners. You see, he gets in there, it's got some understeer, it means it's not turning enough, and then the back end step. Again, look at this.
He's done it twice, 2 laps in a row.
There is a problem now. They really need to get the car in and take a look at what's going on here.
And all the dramas we showed at the top of the show for this man here, Marco Werner, for Lucas Luhr and Tom Christensen, it was all under braking.
Telling him to turn.
Ignition off and on, ignition off and on.
And what that is.
Let's just talk about this. We just heard on and off. I wonder if he's having some kind of electronic glitch which is affecting his brake. Why would they have?
Try to get ignition off and on.
Why they haven't recycled the ignition doors?
What they're doing is they're recycling the ECU, the computer on board. They're turning off the power to it and having it reestablish its parameters. So probably they've got an issue going on that they're reading back at the pits, and they're trying to solve the problem without coming into the pit area. I think they'll be coming in, though.
This is huge. This is very Audi Sport North America. And the lead Audi R10. If you're joining us late, Dindo Capello in the number 1 Audi was penalized for with Johannes van Overbeek in a GT2 Porsche. That left Werner to take the fight to Peugeot, and now he is struggling.
Well, unlike the Formula 1 cars that you'll see live on speed here tonight, mid-time, Formula 1 cars don't have traction control on the driver's aids that they had last year, but these cars do, Dorsey, and when they go wrong, it's almost impossible to adapt because you're so using them all the time.
And these cars, for the folks at home, these cars are sending a live signal back to the pits. They're sending a radio signal from the car to the engineering staff who is looking at these parameters of what the car's doing. They have found something wrong. They've told them, turn off the ignition, reset the computer, turn it back on. Now, on their laptop, what's going on in the car.
As you've noticed, Marco Andretti and Timo Bernard have got by Werner. So Andretti is running 2nd overall, leading class. This is Tom Christensen yesterday.
In the same place, as a matter of fact, that we've been up twice. This is in turn 10. In the brake zone in there, the car just all of a sudden gets scared.
When they dive on the brakes, the front of the nose goes down, the rear comes up a little bit and just starts to dance on you. It's walking around. Tom couldn't get it together, got on the curbing and consequently went off the racetrack. Marco suffered the same type of issue, a little bit deeper into the corner and just ran wide, so he was lucky there. Otherwise, they'd be fixing this number 2 car in pit lane, not just watching it go around the racetrack still.
The sister Audi, car number 1, Dindo Capello, is immediately behind Marco Werner. He's in 5th place, some 9 seconds back. So it is Peugeot for Andretti Green, the first of the Penske Porsches in Timo Bernard, 3rd overall. Then Werner, then Capello, and Brabham in 6th. Leitzinger 7th. Diaz has dropped to 8th in class. Dyson and Lammers, that's your top 10. Need to tell you about Pinks Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Pacific. Right here on Speed, and Pinks returns for an all-new episode, of course, with all new rules. Pinks only on Speed, 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. We're back. You're back. If this is your first time today of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, big news. Peugeot's here for the first time in their diesel-powered 908 HDI type, and they lead the field. They came to the winter test in January. They were quite dominant. They laid it down. They said, we're coming here to get ready for Le Mans, but we also want to beat Audi. And that's good news for Penske. Sasha Masson, Ryan Briscoe, Patrick Long. They are back out on track after a prolonged period of time in the lane and in the paddock. Now Sasha takes the car back. Tell us more, Brian.
Well, I checked with the team just moments ago. Sasha comes to pit lane. He has to shut, refire it to head back on track after being back in the garage area. But all of the water was up top. They did say that it had come out of the catch tank, but that's not why the car overheated. Temperature shot up, and then the fluid began to leak. They don't know why they shot up. They did not hole a radiator or anything like that. I don't think they have hopes for the 6 car continuing much longer, but they are going to send it back on track.
Now, usually when you overheat an engine of this magnitude, you know, whatever the thing that they fixed was, if they fixed anything at all, it might have done internal damage to the engine. I thought I saw spray, actually, Calvin.
Just as he left there,
yeah. Sound right either. And he's 10 laps down, so...
Yeah, it's spraying. Look at the left side.
Something coming out. Still be some fluid in there that got poured into the underbelly, the under tray there.
That's what Roger'd say, too.
Yeah, that's what he's telling the officials, right? Oh, it's going to go.
So their fight for victory in this race has been halved. The 7 of Timo Bernard still running strong, second in class, 4th overall. Let's take you to GT2 and Jamie Mello. He might be leading and leading well by over 20 seconds. But while we're away in the commercial break, he had an anxious moment. An uncharacteristic moment for the Risi Competizione Ferrari 430. This out.
Same area of the racetrack everybody else is having trouble on.
That's right, Dorsey. That's where Werner had his 2 offs.
And I'm wondering, Calvin, if maybe we don't have a little water or oil situation going on down in 10 here.
Good point. I mean, you got cars out there leaking fluid, such as Sasha Masson, and maybe there is still some fluid out there. Got lucky there, clears the with no problem. Just picked up some debris on the tires, and he stayed out.
The Muller Ferrari, it was leaking water as well.
That's right. A bunch of them been leaking, and I suspect the 6 might still be out there. But
2 cars in, Brian.
Marco Werner hits the marks. Lucas Luhr will be taking over. We'll see these 2 drivers all year long in the American Le Mans Series. Audi let us know that yesterday. We'll also see him and Frankie Bila starting in the 2nd round. So great to see 2 Audi R10s in the American Le Mans Series for 2008. But right now, Lucas Luhr is going to inherit a car not handling particularly well. So Werner perhaps glad to step out.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Brian. He's probably glad to get out of there.
Here the crew talking to him right now. 4 tires going on. The fuel is in. Lucas Luhr down. Takes a moment to refire it, but Luhr now underway.
After creating time in GT2 cars in the American Le Mans Series and in Europe, Lucas Luhr has shown us over the past not quite a year just how comfortable he is in a top-tier prototype.
Well, in the meantime, the number 6 Penske Porsche is gone off the racetrack, back behind the wall, and I think that will be terminal.
You hear, see Marco Werner discussing with the engineers what's going on. He's not happy. It's a long 12 hours. If you're struggling with a race car, maybe they can fix it electronically. Subtle setup changes you can make during a race, but anything major takes too much time. That's Ralph right. That's the head of Audi Motorsport.
He just by his hands, Calvin, described what you described. He said the nose went down, then the back gets up and starts skating around, exactly like what you said before.
And that's the opposite to what they had going on earlier in the weekend. That's exactly what Dindo said was going on with the one machine, but Rocky and Lucas said no, our car has understeer, so maybe they went with the 1 car setup to try and find some speed, and now their drivers are having to adapt to it.
Are we seeing cracks in what has always appeared to be the impenetrable armor of the Audi R10? Audi Sport North America, with their partners from Yost as well, have been dominant in the American Le Mans Series and the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Remember, they are going for their 9th consecutive victory here at the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. Will that run be stopped today? Well, if it is, this is the main contender. Nicolas Manassian and the French Peugeot team, the total Peugeot team, are looking good so far. Not a foot wrong. An hour and a half into this race.
Hey everybody, Patrick Long here at the Sebring 12 Hours. I'm your Cub reporter for this weekend's 12 Sebring. We're going to go around and get some drivers' interviews and maybe even get a little duet with Doug Feehan and Mr. Roger Penske. That should be pretty...
No. Hold on here, Cubby. It takes a full bear to Roger Penske to do something, and you're talking to him right here.
And what are our chances then? If I'm the Cubby, what are we getting out of you?
It's pretty good because I think I can get Roger to dress up, shave his legs, put on a mini skirt, some 3-inch pump. We'll make a heck of a team.
Well, I'm the rookie, so I'm going to let you do the hard work here and fly under the radar.
That's the idea. You learn from the doctor.
And when we come back after heading off to Bristol in our next show, you'll be able to see Patrick perform his duties as Cub reporter. Sadly, we may not get to see him perform his duties out on track today. Things aren't going well for the 6. They're going very well for car 07. The Peugeot has got by Lucas Luhr, put him down a lap, and that could be very important come the end of this motor race.
Absolutely. If there was to be a caution period now, it would really hurt the 2 car. We're expecting the 07 in within the next 10. There you see Lucas there struggling to get it turned in for that same corner, Dorsey. Turn 10 is the area for this Audi. Just the way it weights, weight transfer to the front of the car. They are really fighting. It's going to keep the boys on their toes for 12 hours.
Marco Werner just climbed out of the number 2 Audi, and Marco, we're so used to seeing that car look like a joy to drive. It doesn't look like fun today.
It was a hard drive, but I had fun behind the Peugeot. But after that, when I went in the grass, that wasn't funny because the tires was completely full with dirt, and so I lost the grip completely. And then we decided to come in and make a full service.
Lucas looks like he has his hands full right now. Now, earlier in the you guys had some understeer in the car. Have you made a change in the setup and maybe gone a little too far?
No, not understeering, also oversteering, and this is also a little bit of trouble in the race why I went off. So the rear is coming then on braking. It's not nice, it's not really safe, and that is not nice for a race like this.
Well, Dorsey, it sounds like a car that you should be driving. It understeers in one corner, oversteers the next.
What a pleasant car to drive. It's pinning that nose down. When he brakes, it's throwing all the weight up the nose. Back end's getting hot. Their diesel cars are heavy at the back anyway. Back end gets light and starts sashaying around, and it's a handful.
Everyone thinks that track can perform miracles, but once it starts to slide, it's not going to do anything.
Good scrap going on here further down in P2, and this is the battle for 4th. Butch Leitzinger is fending off the 15 lows. Fernandez of Luis Diaz, who has started the race, stayed in through that first full course caution. Brian?
Your leader is on pit road. 07 Joe is in. Nicolas Manassian is out, and they will do tire this time. Obviously, you're going to do a driver change. You're going to send him out on fresh Michelins. That's exactly what's happening. Looks like Pedro Lamy is behind the wheel. Service down here. They did reach in and clean out the radiators. And now the Peugeot back on track.
And the 1 car is in as well. It looked like Tom Christensen climbing aboard. Dindo Capelli is done. Kept his composure after that early penalty. To the penalty box, and then they work their way back to 2nd overall, 2nd in class.
This is a good read on the fuel consumption of both diesel cars. They both went 18 laps there. Beginning of it was caution, so if this can stretch it that far when it's full green racing.
Christensen with 4 overall wins here. Tied with Frankie Bieler for the most. Like to make it 5 today, but right now these Audis, as you guys have said, they don't look as sound as they have in the past.
Also, Calvin, for the Peugeot camp, a whole stint and a half on those tires, so they will now get exactly what you were talking about before. They'll get a good look at these, see what the wear factor is, and see what kind of the drop-off they had in speed.
I misspoke there. It was 28.18 that they did, which is much closer to the mark, just under an hour under green flag running. So that's the mark. Can they get to that point? under full green flag conditions. Remember, with the diesel power, it really saves an enormous amount of fuel, Dorsey. It's under caution.
Yeah, no question about it. They'll put that thing up in a top gear and just, you know, it's not turning RPM anyway. They run about 5,000 revs at top speed, but behind that pace car, they're probably running like 1,500.
Lucas Luer gets by Clint Field, the 32nd time on pit road earlier with fuel pump problems. And we have an Andretti leading Sebring. Marco Andretti, the grandson of Mario, a three-time winner of this event, leads the motor race and his P2 category. This is the defending LMP2 winner, the XM Satellite Andretti Green Acura HPD. And Research have done an incredible amount of work in the off-season to get the three Acuras in this race streamlined, pointing in the same direction and working to the optimum level to take the fight to and beyond Porsche. So far, so good.
Run about 10,500 revs there. That's a lot of revs for a 12-hour race, isn't it?
And this boy is a racer. He's done some Formula One tests, and he said the downforce these cars develop pretty much the same.
We are back, and our race leader is on pit lane. Chris Neville, tell us more.
Well, the amazing thing, Marco Andretti staying behind the wheel of the 26 car. They said, Marco, you want to do a third stint? He said, yeah, guys, this is a piece of cake out here. I talked to the Michelin engineer. I said, you guys are double stinting tires. How do they look that first time? He said they looked fantastic. They just didn't put tires on, so they're triple stinting Marco, and they're triple stinting the tires.
Holy cow. That's just amazing.
That really surprised me, and the reason being we've had a lot of debris out there. It's very easy to get a small slice in the tire that you're not going to see when the tires stay on the car. Remember, he had that big off in turn one. Brave call, but it's a 12-hour race. You don't need a puncher.
Well, I don't see the point in it for the first place. I mean, a triple stint on tires doesn't make sense to me at all. I mean, there's no need for it.
New race leader is this man, Timo Bernard. Pedro Lamy is behind some 25.5 seconds. And a man who enjoyed front running for the majority of this opening hour and a half is standing by with Brian.
Nicholas Manasseh just climbed out of the Peugeot. Tremendous run. You watch a car from time to time on the racetrack and you go, that's the car I want to drive. That's what the Peugeot looked like today.
You know, I mean, I don't want to talk too much, you know. I don't want to, but it's good. It's, the principle all the time, I think you always want to be at the front. The car is very good. I think we walk really well, and since we arrived at the test day, you know, it was the car was put on the track and it was very close to very good. So we just walk a little bit on long stint, and the car is working well with the tire.
You talk about the tire. We were all surprised to see you double stint the tire. First full course caution. We thought maybe you'd like to get a read on what the tire wear was like today. Was that a gutsy call? The tires on?
I have to say, you know, it was good. It was all right to do it while we've done half a stint at the beginning, but to do two stints straight away, long, you know, two full stints, I think it would be tricky because my second stint was difficult, but it was all right. It was still difficult.
And it looks like you can run the pace that you want to run. Are you out there with the gun at your throat, or is the pace you run easy?
You know, we're always pushing flat out. That's what it is, you know, push, 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 and see what's happened.
Push, 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 and right now it's all going their way. That Peugeot, very, very fast, guys.
Well, that was fairly telling about the tire situation. Don't know if we could do a full double stint.
Yeah, that gave up a lot right there. He said he didn't want to talk too much, but he just really played a hand to us. We talk about these cars not being able to double stint. Not that they couldn't do it, but that the time would fall off so significantly that the lighter cars would get an advantage on them.
I asked Michel Barge, the program director for Peugeot yesterday, is coming and doing this 12-hour race more valuable for you than doing a 24-hour simulation? And he had a smile. He says nothing is better than racing. Chris?
Well, the Lowe's machine in pit lane, running 6th overall, 5th in class. Adrian Fernandez getting behind the wheel. We saw Diaz take this car off the track earlier in this race. This team also deciding not to do tires. They took a good look at the car, making sure that there's no damage anywhere on it. But they are also at least double stinting tires. I didn't have a chance to see that first pit stop, so this team feeling very comfortable about the tires today. I checked back in with Andretti to say who made the decision on the triple, and they said Marco did. He said the tires felt great. We've been watching the pressures all day, so we can see if there's any type of a puncture or anything. But right now, Marco making that decision. If the car feels great, let's do a triple.
Number 9 machine also coming out of pit lane. I think that's Scott Sharp now taking over from David Brabham, so there's been a driver change there. Typically when you do a driver change, you would change tires as well in case the driver change gets fumbled, and you like your guy coming out of the pits to have fresh rubber. So I expect fresh rubber on this Acura, but I think it really dictates or shows Dorsey how much downforce is on these Acura chassis this year, because when it's planted to the ground and you're not sliding around, that allows you to do these doubles and triples.
Yeah, and you know, Calvin, the racetrack has got to be pretty greasy. We've seen a lot of cars go off uncharacteristically, really good drivers going off the racetrack, so I think the racetrack has oil on it. It's a hot day now. I've been around Sebring a lot. When it gets hot at Sebring, it always gets slippery here, so downforce helps.
Look at this. The 7 machine trying to get through traffic. Pushing his way through is Timo Bernard. And I take that back, because they've made a driver change and this car will be penalized.
Yeah, you see him moving to the inside, and that's not for the pass. That's because he's headed to pit road.
Speeding on pit lane, we assume it was Timo coming in. He had to do the majority of the pit lane. Romar leaving, it was just a short squirt before you get to the stripe. And this is where it would have happened. Timo would have come in. Typically, it'd be right initially as you cross that stripe. They try and make as much time as they can on the in lap. And then they hit the pit lane speed limiter at 60 kilometers an hour, about 37 miles an hour. And when you're in full race mode and you see those cars flashing by on your left, this seems like an eternity.
I hate that when you get in the car and the driver kid now had the penalty and you got to pay the ticket.
16 is in for a routine stop at Dyson. That's Guy Smith getting behind the wheel. Romain Dumas, who's taken over from Timo Bernard.
Guy Smith just left in that Porsche RS Spider from Dyson. And don't get confused at home. Chris Dyson stepped out. That was the 16 car. He switched car numbers this year. Chris?
Well, a minute ago, we saw the Lowe's car in and Luis Diaz getting out. Luis, you had a great double stint there. Tell us a little bit about the track. We're seeing the P1 cars really slide around, where the P2 cars, you guys are double and triple stinting tires.
Yeah, I think the P2 car is handling better. I mean, at least our Lowe's Acura car is handling very well right now. He's not changing very much during the stint, even with the full tanks. So it's getting there. I think we are showing that we are a lot more competitive than last year, and I'm happy. I think we have a good car for this race for sure.
You had a chance to really be around the Porsche Penske's for a while there. How is the Acura standing up this year?
I think we're there. I mean, I had a problem with a P1 that they spawned in front of me, but I think we were hanging there. So I'm very happy. I'm very proud of these guys, and let's hope to keep working like this, and I think we will have a strong car for today.
Well, guys, and just to give you an update on some of the temperatures we're seeing down here, ambient is right around 78 degrees, track temperature hovering right around 90.
Diaz, his friends call him Chapulin or Grasshopper. Well, the Grasshopper moved to Scottsdale, Arizona to intensify his fitness training with co-driver Adrian Fernandez. Yes, the great events just continue to come. We're beginning the 10th anniversary season of the American Le Mans Series. How fast goes by, huh? When you're having fun and interested in something as intriguing as the American Le Mans Series. And how about this race? Pedro Lamy in the Peugeot leads the way over Tom Christensen in the Audi. It's Peugeot, Audi, and then Porsche with Lucas Luhr and Marco Andretti. 4 different cars, 4 highly cars in the top 4 positions, and this car has created a lot of interest. They've brought an enormous group with them. There's some 40 staff come over from France Predominantly a French team. There are a sprinkling of Italians, but the pit area that they take up just for one car out in the paddock is amazing. It's a rather large temporary building. They have a huge hospitality area here as well. They've brought over French journalists. They are here not only to prepare for Le Mans, but to make an impact and a statement.
They have personnel here just to run the race cars. They've got 20 journalists. They've got 100 guests from Total here in USA. Also Microsoft. So this is very tight there, getting around the Lister machine. Audi, for example, they got 280 guests here. So this is what's all about. The manufacturer interest, the corporate sponsorship. This is big-time racing.
But watching that Peugeot around the racetrack, Calvin, there's no comparison in the stability it shows over the Audi. That Audi is really, really temperamental today. This Peugeot is nailed to the track.
Such a sexy race car with a closed cockpit. The ACO, the organizing body from France for Le Mans, states that all of the cars have to be in that configuration by the year 2010.
Big weekend of Formula One, and this man here we ride with is a F1 pilot, Mika Salo. The reigning GT2 American Le Mans Series champion is back out in front in the 62. They lead the 87 Farnbach-Lols Porsche, Mark Basseng behind the wheel, and then the best of the Flying Lizards, Jörg Bergmeister, in the 5 is third in class.
And to get the idea how rough Sebring is, listen to the note of the engine and hear the warble when it loses its traction over the bumps.
The what?
It'll be really warble. That's warble. Gotcha. Listen here, you'll hear what I mean.
All right, let's enjoy some sounds of speed. Here we go. Enjoy the ride with Mika Salo. Sweet sound, and it's running well for Risi Competizione. The 87, the Farnbach-Lols Porsche, Mark Basseng is behind the wheel and doing a very stout job at the moment, chasing down that Ferrari of Mika Salo. Dirk Werner had a great opening stint.
Lee and Dirk Werner just hopped out of that GT2 car when he was in the lead prior to the pit stop. Dirk, it looks like Porsche's back in a position to compete against the Ferrari.
Yeah, I felt that the car was very good in the beginning. Obviously a great race so far. And it seems that Porsche did very good engineering over the winter to set up this 2008 RSR. So I'm looking forward to beat the Ferrari perhaps the first time for us.
Now, some of those changes aerodynamically to the front end of the car. Last year, the car had a lot of understeer. What about those changes on the front end?
Yeah, the car has more downforce, so you can really feel that the balance of the car changed a lot, so that it's much easier to handle right now. And driving is really fun. The car is good balanced, so not pretty happy to drive this car right now.
Well, last year was all Ferrari. It looks like Porsche's back in the game.
It certainly is, and they've got a very talented trio of drivers in that 87 Farnbach-Lols Porsche. Time for a quick break. More from Sebring on the other side of this. Speed's coverage of the American Le Mans Series 12 Hours of is brought to you by Audi. The truth is out. It's powerful, and it's available at your Audi dealer now. Audi, truth in engineering. And by XM Satellite Radio. 170 channels to find out what turns you on. XM, are you on? Just shy of 2 hours into this classic American sports car race, and there has been so much transpire already, but the key storyline is that the first-time visitors here with this diesel-powered closed-top prototype show have been quite dominant, to say the least. Pedro Lamy leads Tom Christensen by some 32 seconds. This is the 2 car. This is Lucas Luhr, and this car has had continual problems today, heading down into the braking zone in turn 10. Dorsey, tell us more.
Well, it's the same exact scenario we've seen all weekend long from this Audi. He gets on the brakes, the front gets pinned down, the back starts dancing. That's where Christensen crashed the car. That's where all the cars have been off today. That's Audi corner. Look at this. Just gets evil under braking.
Once it starts to lock up that rear, you then have to release the brakes, then they get too deep into the corner to make because they're running right on the edge. So once you're 10 feet past that braking point, there is no return. So that's why he skated down the escape there. So these boys have got a long 12 hours. This racetrack is difficult enough at the best of times, Dorsey, but when the car is evil handling like it is right now, it makes it doubly difficult.
And that's on relatively good rubber, too. I mean, the rubber's not even off on that car yet.
Lucas is still running third in the P1 class and fourth overall. If you're just joining us, we know that some of you will be tuning in early. We're just about ready still, but Marco Andretti has been one of the storylines as well. Third generation racer is third in the race. Here he is, and he leads his category. He got off to a very sketchy start, running wide and going out onto the grass and dirt at turn 1, the opening lap, but regrouped, recovered, great pit work, great strategy, and the young Andretti is just loving his Sebring debut.
This is his triple stint. He's been in for quite a long time, just at 2 hours.
And he's getting into a great rhythm now. You can see him handling traffic beautifully, keeping his nose clean. And he has one awfully strong horse underneath him.
When we do go away to Bristol in just a few moments' time, you can stay in touch with what's happening here at the Mobil 112 Hours of Sebring with the Speed On-Board Pass. Log on to speedtv.com. The keyword is Acura. And you will hear everything from pit to driver and the on-board cameras. Now, looking ahead here on Speed over the next couple of hours, we're going to take you away to NASCAR Nationwide Series practice from Bristol. That's coming up right now, and following that will be NASCAR Sprint Cup Series practice also at Bristol. That's from 1, and we will be back with you from Eastern all the way to the checkered flag and beyond. A post-race show as well. We'll be back soon. Enjoy Bristol. Lots more coming up from Sebring. We'll see you soon.